Hello, I'm delighted to be here today with my good friend and former colleague, Jim Costello.
Great to see you, Steve.
Good to see you. Now, Jim, you travel a lot, you go out, you meet a lot of people in the real estate industry. Tell us what you've found recently. What sort of challenges are people facing?
Yeah, real estate is an opaque asset class. I've been working in this information space since 1994. And despite my best efforts, it's still an opaque asset class. It's always going to be an opaque asset class because each building has unique characteristics. So you got to go out and talk to everybody just to figure out what's going on. And I've been busy throughout the beginning of 2025. We had some really good news towards the end of 2024. Deal volume was starting to recover. Prices were starting to recover. It's like we had a shock from the increase in interest rates that started in 2022, and it took a couple years for the market to absorb that information, figure out how things should be repriced, and then we saw the tentative green shoots of deal volume recovering, prices started to recover. People were pretty optimistic at the end of 2024. But then we had a change. With the new administration coming in, there's been a tremendous amount of uncertainty. So that rise in uncertainty, as I've been going out and about, people have been raising more and more questions about what happens next, and there's some evidence, a few individuals have told me stories of how they've been pulling back from deals, that all the uncertainty has made it harder for them to underwrite. There's more uncertainty into the future for these potential investments. So as a buyer, they're going in less aggressively.
And I would like to think there are winners and losers in every cycle.
For sure, there's winners and losers in every cycle, and I also want to make sure that it doesn't come off as just like I'm negative on policies here. Every policy, no matter what you're doing with it, there's positives and negatives to it as well. So tariffs, there will be some negatives, but there will probably be some positives too. And so you got to be careful not to just say that, one thing changes and everything is linearly better or worse into the future because of this one change. Things are more complex than that. The impact from changes in costs will take time to work through the economy. But yeah, you could have some benefits from all this on commercial real estate investment. There will be some folks who will benefit. Who benefits? Well, it's not quite clear, in part because we're not sure where and when the change in tariff policy, trade policy, job growth that comes from all this, it's not clear when this has an impact. So that's why buyers are a little bit hesitant at the moment, because if you don't know what policies are coming and when they will be implemented, it's hard to put money to work right now. So more information is needed there to help investors make decisions. That said, one thing that's been discussed when I talk to friends in the policy scene in DC, opportunity zones were a big thing in the first Trump administration. It had some impact. There's some thought that maybe they try and ramp that up. There's folks actively trying to push that. I'd be looking for that information. Another thing, it's not implemented. This is just rumors I'm hearing from people in the market.
I like rumors.
But there's a notion that some of the banks have some bad loans on the books. The notion is that they are going to try to reduce some of the regulatory burden on banks. The Treasury Secretary was talking about that the other day, trying to reduce regulatory burden. If they can do that, that was one of the reasons why the debt funds gained so much market share over the last decade, because the banks had so many regulations dumped on top of them. Sometimes it became easier to make a loan to a debt fund, a line of credit at like 150 over SOFR, as opposed to doing a direct property loan for 300 over SOFR. So that could be an opportunity, because if you do have some big regulatory changes that make some of the capital reserve issues cleaner, maybe it's more capital reserves as a requirement, but if you have a cleaner process of originating loans, then banks may be back in a big way for lending in commercial real estate.
Oh, yeah. Well, the uncertainty is the dominant theme here in our little chat. And you're just about to embark on the conference season. It'll be very interesting to see what you come back with from talking to everybody, all sides of the equation. So let's leave it at that for now, and then perhaps you would come back in the springtime, the half year, and let's see how...
Sometime in June would probably be good for that.
It'll be interesting to see how things unfold. Yeah, thanks for that this morning.